Giants fans, what is going on? You're listening to another and the final episode of Draft Talk for the 2023 season. First of all, I just want to say shout out to everybody who tunes in every week. You know, Truth and I, we funneled through a lot of guys coming on here to talk to different positions and whatnot. I think it's safe to say that we saved the best for last when it comes to our guests. We have a special guest tonight, Chris the Entertainer. Entertainer, what is going on, man?
Oh, man, I don't know who your other guests were, but I appreciate the kind words. I'm sure you had a lot of great guys on, and I'm excited to come on. I'm excited to talk Giants football with you guys, and I know tonight we're going to, specifically talk about one position, but excited to just jump into the draft in general. We're only a week away. I woke up today, I said to myself, oh, my God, like it just crept up on me because this was not your typical offseason that we've become accustomed to as Giants fans. We start thinking about the draft in October, November in prior years. This year, we were thinking about the Super Bowl by the time we got to the second round of the playoffs. So it was a lot of fun this past year, and hopefully this year's, even more fun. So we'll see how we do, and the draft's going to go a long way towards doing that.
Yeah, and it is. It's funny, and we'll get into this later. But the funny thing is, when you're good again, is that the draft actually becomes a little bit boring. While it's still exciting, we have the opportunity to take these players. Right, we're picking at 25. We're used to picking very high, and you kind of say to yourself when you're picking at 4, like, there's a very likely chance we might get a Hall of Famer right here.
Yeah.
Not to say that we're not going to get one here at 25, but it's like we're going to have a lot of waiting to do, which means we're going to have a lot of drinking to do the night of the draft, and I'm sure you have the same plans.
Yeah. Well, you're absolutely right. Like in prior drafts, I could have pinpointed what we were going to do. I could have said, in 2020, you knew we were taking a tackle, whether it was Andrew Thomas, Tristan Wirfs, Jedrick Wills. You knew we were taking a tackle because it was a huge need. It was a strong tackle class. We were picking 4th overall. Last year, I knew we were taking a tackle, and I knew we were either going to end up probably with Kayvon Thibodeau or Sauce Gardner. That was my thought going into the draft. So this year, I think it's more along the lines you just sit back, like you said, enjoy your beer. If you're Joe Schoen and the New York Giants general manager, I think you just go by your draft board. I think you pick the best player that falls to you. I've kind of compared it to the McKinney pick even though it was a second round pick, it was 34th overall. So similar, where going into the draft, if you were a Giants fan, you probably didn't think we were taking a safety round 2 in that draft. And a lot of people didn't think McKinney would get there. I think we could end up with a very similar feeling with this pick at 25, because I just think whoever's the best player that's there outside of probably the quarterback position, I think the New York Giants are going to draft him. That's my mindset going into this draft. I just think it so happens to be, it's very likely it could be a corner just because of how rich this class is, specifically in the earlier rounds at the corner position. But I think that's the mindset. It's very hard to really pinpoint what we're going to do specifically in the first round. But what makes me really excited about this draft is it's really, in my opinion at least, Joe Schoen's first real true draft. It's his first full year with the New York Giants. Of course, he signed on last year in like January, February. So he had like 2 months before the draft. Didn't even have all of his scouts in the building. He's now had 12 months to prepare for this draft as the New York Giants general manager. He's gotten to coach with Wink. He's gotten to build up this team. So I think he's going to knock this draft out of the park. The question is, what's his plan? And we're all excited to see how it unfolds in a week.
Yeah, no, totally agree with you. And because last year there was still a little bit of a foot in the door at draft time with the prior administration. Not necessarily Gettleman, but a couple scouts were still in the building, weren't they?
Yeah.
Now, I mean, it's been complete turnovers. This is all Joe Schoen's picks. And I'm with you. I'm very interested to see, what he has in store for us. But I guess, to start the night, we'll talk about the position. This is the position we've held off on for the longest because Truth and I wanted to see what happens here with Saquon. Obviously, we're not really anywhere right now. So first of all, why don't we just talk about the running back situation as it is? And what are your thoughts on Saquon presently? Do you think there's a chance he doesn't end up with the Giants next year?
I'll say there's a chance, but I think it's like a very small chance. I think it's like 5%, if that. And the only way I see that happening is if the Giants were to trade him. I don't think when push comes to shove at the end of the day, I don't think he's going to hold out. Because the fact of the matter is this: his reputation aside, and I hate saying this because I love Saquon, but Saquon he has no leverage because he's 26. He's had an injury history. So what's your plan, Saquon? You're going to sit out this year, make no money, and you think you're going to come back next year at 27 when running backs typically break down at 29-ish, and you're going to be able to get a huge salary somewhere else as the running back market continues to deflate. So when push comes to shove, I think Joe Schoen knows he has the leverage. I think in an ideal world, they want to get something worked out because I just think it's good for the locker room that if you're able to extend one of your leaders, he's happy from within the locker room. But I think it has to be on Joe Shane's terms. If they could get a deal done in the 3 for 36, 25 guaranteed range, I could see something like that coming to fruition. But if Saquon's not willing to go down to that point, I think in the end he's going to play out on the tag. So I do think he'll be the Giants' starting running back this year. I just don't know if he's going to be the running back going forward after that.
Totally agree, Chris. Totally. Absolutely. Yeah. No leverage at all with this guy. I can see only a 3-year deal with a 2-year out. That's what I'm looking at.
That's what I'm looking at too. If you're the Giants, I think they'd agree to that. 3 years, 25 guaranteed, 36 million. Yeah, small cap hit after year 3. That's I think the max that he could get from the Giants right now.
Yeah, and I almost feel bad. I mean that is the state of the running back situation right now. I mean, there's bad for almost the entirety of his early years. But running backs don't really get many years. I mean, Barry Sanders played for 9 seasons.
He was 29 when he retired. I remember as a kid, or maybe he was 30, but I remember as a kid, I was like, how the hell did he retire so young?
Yeah,
and I was so upset when he retired. But as you grow older, you realize Tiki Barber, same thing. Everybody complained he went out on top, but he was like 30 because running backs break down at that stage of their career.
Yeah. Let me ask you something, Chris. This is an interesting question, but I want to hear your thoughts. In truth, actually, you answer this too. If you had a son that was athletic enough to play running back, cornerback, wide receiver, and he says he wants to play running back, but he's talented enough he can go to the NFL, would you advise against that? Say, hey, play receiver, play cornerback, not running back. What would you tell your son in that situation?
You want me to start? Now it's all dependent on, I guess, their build, right? So certain people are obviously built more to play the running back than they are the wide receiver based off speed and everything else. But if he was fully capable of playing all 3 positions at a professional level, I would tell my son, I don't care how much you like getting the ball handed off to you. You're going to get run into the ground. You're not going to be worth anything by the time you're 26, 27 years old because they're just going to look to the draft and they're going to replace you. Cornerbacks and wide receivers last longer. They get paid a hell of a whole lot more. If you told your son to play running back, if he had the option to play wide receiver and cornerback, I would tell you probably hate your son. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Truth, would you say the same thing?
Yes. Yeah, I was kind of laughing when he asked that question. I would never, all equal, I would never let my son play running back.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah, well, I don't really have speed in my gene pool, so I can't even fathom thinking about the idea. But it's funny because 40 years ago, it's a different discussion, right? Obviously, you play running back in that situation. But times have changed. Times have changed for the running back position, and it's something to consider. But, again, I mean, this does provide the Giants a little bit of opportunity. They can walk away with a steal here in the mid to late rounds with the running back. That ability is always up in the air now. And you just don't really quite know who it is that's going to break out at the next level. So, look, for all the Giants fans here tonight, we're talking about the top 10 running backs. We have a relatively short list because we're going to get to Chris. We're going to talk more about the draft. But we want to talk about all the top 10 guys, any guys that, might be on the fence here, and then just kind of go through any considerations because, look, it's possible the Giants walk away with one of these guys. A top 10 running back, they can walk away with one in the mid-rounds because that's just the name of the game nowadays.
They will fall back. These running backs will go back, drafted later than we think. Aside from Robinson, first-round pick. But
right,
you got so many positions with depth. They're going to fall back. You're going to be shocked. Some of these kids are going to be on day 3. You'll see a lot of them.
Oh,
totally,
yeah, for sure,
totally. So why don't we start with the first guy? We're going in a little bit of a random order tonight because we don't want to start with Bijan and then everybody leaves. Let's start with a guy from Ole Miss, Zach Evans. I will go through, what I have on the guy real quick. I love that he really fights for the extra yard, and it's not really just that extra 1 or 2 yards. He gets 3 or 4 when he's making that initial contact, and he's dragging a lot of these guys, defensive linemen included. I think that's a skill that translates very well at the NFL level because the guys that really ball out at that level are the dudes that have a little bit more power. And I really liked watching him play. Goal line offense, he's a dime. He's incredible with it, right? You could definitely rely on him not only for 3rd and 1, but 3rd and 3 perhaps. He gets past the first level really well as well, even when he's not getting all the daylight when it comes to blocking. The marks I have against him is He doesn't really have breakaway speed. You're not going to
No.
see any crazy runs out of the guy. And overall, I mean, I think he doesn't really build momentum that well. He's going to get chased from behind from a lot of these cornerbacks. And shiftiness, he doesn't really have it. Doesn't really knock him. But those are my thoughts. True. We'll hand it to you, and then Chris, we'll go with you next.
No, I want Chris to take it. Go ahead,
All right, Chris, you go.
I mean, I think I think he projects more of a backup running back. If I had to guess, maybe a guy that could get you 9 or 10 carries a game. But the thing that really stood out to me when I did my research on him, a lot of the things you said, those are his characteristics. And when I watched some of his highlights, but the guy fumbles a ton. Like that's the book on him. He had fumble problems at the collegiate level. So to me, if I'm Shane, he's off my list already. I don't want a fumbler on my football team if I could avoid it. And everything I've read, everything I've seen, that's what people have said about Zach Evans. That's his biggest red flag.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I'm not really interested. If I'm the New York Times, cross him off the list.
He's a hard runner. That's no doubt. But yeah. I agree. He does have a tendency to lose the ball too much.
Yeah, and you don't want a guy. I mean, it's part of what enabled Daniel Jones to have a really successful year last year. He didn't turn over the ball very frequently, right?
If ever. And so I'm going to tell you the craziest stat. I'm going to tell you the craziest stat about Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley has fumbled the ball once in his entire career. He's lost one fumble his entire career.
And didn't he recover it himself when he fumbled it?
No, he lost one. He lost one. Yeah, and I think it was like the first play of his second year or something like that, or whatever it was. But yeah, that to me is an insane stat when you think about that, right? One lost fumble his entire career. His entire career. That's crazy.
Yeah. And you simply can't afford to fumble. I mean, I remember the Giants were in last year. They didn't fumble, but the Jaguars did right near the goal line. That would have probably turned the game over, to be honest with you. It kills. We can't afford.
Well, think about the Richie James game. He cost us a game with 2 fumbles on the punt returns.
Oh, why'd you have to remind me that? Oh, Chris. Oh, man, yeah, that one killed. So if he's got a fumbling issue, I'm with you. He might have some good plays here and there, but I don't even want to entertain it. So,
Chris, what do you think? Where do you think this kid goes? What round would you look at for Evans?
I think he's a day 3 guy. I think he's I think he's at round 4. Round 4, probably that's where I'd have round 4, round 5. That's probably where he goes. Maybe round 3, but I'm thinking round 4, round 5.
Fair enough.
Yep.
Well, let's keep in the SEC. We'll go down to this Tank Bigsby out of Auburn. Tana, I mean, what'd you think of him when you were doing your homework on the guy?
I love the name. He doesn't really run like his name. He's not, I'm not saying that he's not soft, but to me, he's actually a little bit more shifty than I thought he would be based off his name. His 40 time didn't blow it out of the water. He only ran a 4.56. Not much of a pass catcher. So he's he's not really like a multifaceted running back, but he does have good second level speed from what I saw. And he's a bit of a dynamic playmaker. The Giants, I think, also brought him in for a visit, so there's interest there. So I think he's a guy that you could look for if you're a Giants fan. Maybe in that same area that I said. I think he's probably like a early day 3 guy, round 4-ish. And that could be a guy that definitely interests and intrigues the New York Giants. So I could see us being interested. He's 6 foot 210, so he's got some good size to him. But he doesn't run quite as hard as I thought he would. He's more of he's an all-around back in terms of his running style. He's not like a Brandon Jacobs.
No, not at all. He's very elusive. I guess that's the one concern is how bad that 40 time was, the 4.56, and I had that in my note too. Like it's like, that's not ideal,
Yeah.
But it's funny. I heard that, but when I watched him play, he hits the hole pretty hard. So that's the one thing that was a little surprising is how bad his speed was, and he does a good job of making secondary players miss. But truth. I mean, what were your thoughts on him?
Well, you're talking about his speed. There's 40 times speed and there's game speed. And some players sometimes have better game speed because of the decision making, like a running back through the hole. He does run hard, not hard, but he's very elusive. I think he's kind of elusive.
It's elusive, yeah.
Yeah. He definitely doesn't run to his size at 210. But I agree that he is a definitely day 3, late 3, 4th round pick. Absolutely.
And you are right, Tana. You bring up a funny point, man. It's like, with the name like Tank Bigsby, you're expecting a fullback from the 90s with a big old neck roll, right?
I was expecting Mike Allstott.
Yeah, number 44, something like that. but we got like an elusive guy. It's funny, and it's a good point. All right, let's go on to the next guy. This is a guy out of Tulane, and what I do like is when we're bringing up any player that was a part of team that where the program usually sucks, but they had a year where they balled out, especially when it's a guy like this who brought a lot of value to the team. Uh, you know, reminds me of Darren Sproles, but Tana, what are your thoughts on him?
We're not hearing him.
We're good now. I muted myself by accident. I don't know what happened, but I like him. I'm a big fan of him. And another guy that I could clearly see the Giants are probably going to be interested in, at least another guy we brought in. I don't know if it was a top 30 visit, but we definitely interviewed him. I want to say it was a top 30 visit. And yeah, the Darren Sproles comparison is pretty good. He can help on special teams, I think, for sure. Mm-hmm. He's a guy that he could really help you in all different facets. He can catch the ball to the backfield. He runs hard for his size. He's definitely got some speed to him, some breakaway speed. I would not be shocked at all if the Giants end up drafting this guy in the same area. I think all these guys we're talking about are in that same area for me. They're late round 3 to early to, I would say between picks 85 and like 120. That's where I see all these guys going that we've talked about so far. And he's another guy that out of the 3 guys we've talked about so far, he's my favorite thus far.
I totally agree. I believe this guy led the nation in rushing of 1,500 plus yards. I believe he had. Yeah. I think he had like 19 touchdowns. You could check. I'm just going off memory. I like this kid too. I think he's a hard runner. I think he does all the little things, and I think he'll give you a spark. He's one of those guys who can come in, give you a spark, a few snaps, and get the team going. I like this kid as well.
Yeah, he had a lot of impressive plays. I mean, you look through it. I mean, his game tape just showed many plays where he broke off and got 50-plus yards. So it was pretty impressive to watch. And, I guess the knock against guys that play it, and it's a non-Power 5. It's not that small of a school, but I always just say the talent around him, that he's going against isn't that good. But neither of the linemen, neither are the guys that are opening up the lanes for him. I will say the only knock I did have is sometimes he had unrealistically large lanes.
You see that a lot in college.
Yeah, you definitely see that a lot because the
But look at it this way too, Spartan.
Wider, the half
perhaps he was keyed on a lot too. Opposing teams were key on him, and he still did well. So you got to tip his hat for that.
But you're right. I mean, there's a lot of boom potential for the guy, right? So I mean, for anybody getting him in the mid rounds, he's going to offer a lot of potential value.
I'm a fan. If we get him round 4, I'll be very happy. Very happy. Yeah, I'm a fan.
So what about this guy, Zach Charbonnet? Am I saying that right? Truth, you're always better with the names than I am.
That sounds right to me, Charbonnet, right? Chris, what do you think?
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Charbonnet. Okay. All right. Look, he makes some really nice cuts, and he has does a really good job of working linebackers and defensive secondary players. Field vision is incredible, and I think that's really the strength that he has. That's probably better than everybody else that we're going over, is his ability to find the lanes. And that's always super key. It kind of reminded me of Marshawn Lynch a little bit. Only cons is he's not really breaking tackles once he's contacted. And then, speed wasn't unrealistic like it was with Spears, in my opinion. But what are your thoughts? And the truth, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, he's the biggest back we've talked about so far. He's 6'1", 214. The thing that really stood out to me above almost anything else with him when I watched some of his highlights and his film breakdowns, he's patient. He almost has like that Le'Veon Bell-like quality. Like he's really good at allowing his offensive linemen to open up holes. So that's one thing that definitely stood out to me with him. Another guy that I like, him and so far I would say the last 2 running backs we've talked about are the 2 guys I like the most out of the first 4 that we've talked about. And again, similar spot in the draft, probably 4th, maybe 5th round. But totally. Yeah, again, a bigger back. I think he would complement Saquon Barkley well. Me personally, I'd like to get that thumper, and that's kind of what I think he projects to be. So, yeah, I'm a fan. I think he could be another guy that we could potentially target day 3.
Yeah. Yeah, but the hope is that he would slide to day 3. I mean, truth, do you think he's even going to slide to day 3?
I don't know. He's very talented. This guy, I like this kid.
I like him.
And yeah, I think he's the best out of all, and we've talked about so far. He's a good runner, and I believe he's a good receiver as well. So he can give a team a plus on both ends, running and catching the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I always say this. I'm like a broken record. It depends what the first 50 picks do. How is it going to go the first 50 with this pick, with this draft? Because we all know the most dominant positions probably in the top 50, what's going to get called. We kind of know that. And running back is not one of them. So a lot of these guys are going to get pushed back, just like Chris said.
He might go round. A good chance he goes round 3, but I wouldn't be surprised if he gets into day 3.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, of course, I mean, all these players, you're right. I mean, there's so much range as to where they could end up. Like that's what's good with the running back position, right?
Yeah.
Here's one guy I wanted to include on. The reason being is because it's happened a couple times this year. I remember namely with the offensive lineman from Ohio State, Truth, when we're dealing with backups or, in a situation where, it's the other edge, the weak side edge versus the strong edge of the guy playing right tackle. Roschon Johnson is still a pretty talented running back, and he's definitely going to get drafted. I just wanted to hear if you thought maybe there's a chance that he's going to break out because he was a bit of a underutilized in college, or if you think, he fairly and squarely is not going to ball out in the NFL level.
This was NFL.com's right up on him. When I saw it, I'm like, I have to bring this up during the podcast. Power back with bruising frame who fits the football cliche of tough, smart, and dependable. And when I read that, I'm like, that's literally what's on the New York Giants. When Joe Schoen has his press conference, those are the 3 words that they go by: tough, smart, dependable. So I said I had to bring that up during the when I saw that write-up. I'm like, wow, that sounds like the type of player that Joe Schoen could potentially be interested in. And that's exactly what he is. I think he's he projects to be a 3rd-string running back. I don't think he's a guy but he could be a guy that is a big contributor on special teams. Maybe he's a guy you get in the 6th round that could be a big-time special teams contributor for you. Could give you 5 or 6 healthy carries a game. It could be that bruiser on short yardage situations. So I think that's kind of what he's trending towards in the NFL, a clear backup, but a guy that could still provide value for a football team.
Absolutely. And, playing in the shadows of Robinson, the kid, when he did play, averaged almost 6 yards a carry. And he doesn't have wear and tear on his body because of his limited use. So, like you just said, Chris, this is a really good quality day 3 pick right here. If the Giants went after him, I would not be upset at all.
I just find it a little bit odd in this day and age that he didn't transfer going into his senior year. Right? He went through all those 4 years, knew he was going to be a backup his last year, and then yet he's still stuck with Texas. That's unique to me. But again, running backs, it's not like he had 2 shots to play 2 years of football. Running backs, I mean, when you're of age, you got to go. You got to go to the NFL. So, maybe he didn't really have that time to consider it. But still, he's a very talented player, and we'll see how his career ends up. Right? It'd be a very unique story if he's a backup but ends up balling out. I mean, Miles Sanders, granted, he started for a year after Saquon at Penn State, but he was Saquon's backup at one point. Had a great career with the Eagles. I forgot where he went to. Does anyone remember where he went to?
Where did he? I know he gets $6.5 million a year. I can't remember who he signed with, though.
Panthers.
Panthers. There you go. Yep, that was it.
Jeez, losing it. All right, another non-power 5 guy. What about Dwayne McBride out of UAB?
Same thing I said about the first running back we talked about. Big-time fumbling issues, bowl security issues. That was a write-up on him from many people. But good size. He had 10 games last year. He played in 11 games. In 10 of them, he ran for over 120 yards. He's 5'10", 209 pounds. But again, when I start to see red flags where people talk about bowl security issues, I don't like it. So I'm crossing off my list. I don't want him. Not if you got bowl security issues. I don't want you.
Yeah, and I know it's weird. I don't always want to hone in on school size, but you're going UAB and you're struggling to get the ball swatted out of you by these other small schools. I don't really like that because you're going against Sauce Gardner. Man's going to knock that ball out so quick. Then not going to know what hit you. Truth.
Yeah.
How about some real analysis, not just my spiel there? What do you got?
No. No, he does. He does have talent, this kid. And everybody we're going to talk about tonight is going to be talent. They have talent. But there's always those little things, those little factors that come into play. And certainly his is his controlling and maintaining the football on the field. He does have fumbling issues, but I do like him, but I don't know if I like him enough for the Giants to take him.
All right. Well, let's get on to the star of the draft in terms of running backs. We'll just hit him right on the head. It's Bijan Robinson. Tanner, what do you got on him? Like, what are your thoughts? Is he? I guess my ultimate question is this: is he the best running back of 2023, and that's it, or is he actually a legitimate, unique, generational running back? What is he?
I think he's definitely the best running back in this class. I like Gibbs too. Gibbs, I don't think we're talking about in this one. If I'm not, no, he is. He is on the list. So I'll talk about him later. But yeah, I mean, I think he's. I hate the term generational. I think generational is the most overused term around this time of year because you hear it every year, and you hear it about the same position every draft. This guy's a generational quarterback. Well, you just said that about 2 quarterbacks last draft. This guy's a generational edge rusher. You said that about 2 edge rushers last draft. You know what I'm saying? So I think the term generational is a bit overused because I've seen Saquon Barkley, right? He was super talented. Christian McCaffrey coming out. But he's certainly a guy that is worthy of going in the first round of an NFL draft. And that in itself speaks volumes for a running back in today's day and age when we're talking about whether or not we should sign Saquon Barkley any further. For most people to be pretty much in lockstep that this guy belongs in the first round. A lot of people feel he belongs early first round. And he's the complete package. He's got strength, he's got speed, he's got power. He's got everything you could possibly want in a weapon. That's how talented he is. I view the best running backs, I like to call them weapons. I don't even like to call them running backs because it's such a degraded term now in today's NFL. I view Barkley as a weapon. But, I've seen a lot of people that are Giants fans bring up the possibility, well, if you're going to trade Barkley, do you want to draft this guy at 25 if he were to fall? No. Because
I saw that too, and I got into an argument, and it was like, no, I do. Why?
Yeah. This is a super deep running back class. We have so many. If we were a team like the Eagles, sure, have at it. Eagles are built all over. This is a luxury pick. For the Giants, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but he's going to go in the first round, and wherever he goes, he's going to do damage. He's really talented.
Yeah.
For Giants' sake, I hope it's not the Eagles or Dallas. That's all, because this kid can play. This kid is going to be an instant. I think he's going to be an instant success the way Ezekiel Elliott was when he came into the league. I think he's going to be impact in the league, and he's going to be one of the top rushers. That's what I see in this kid.
This is a weird comparison I have. He reminds me a lot of a running back that played for the Chiefs, Jamal Charles. There's something about his body work that looks almost identical.
I like that comparison.
Yeah. And you know something? He's a very talented running back, but I will say he didn't have a whole heck of a lot of plays where it's like those crazy Saquon plays. And granted, you want consistency out of your running backs. That was sometimes a challenge with Saquon is, he's going backwards as easy as he's going forwards. But it's not like there's any plays where it's like, holy crap, like he's going to make a lot of highlight reels. He's going to be very similar to Ezekiel Elliott. He's not going to be very similar to Saquon Barkley, in my opinion. But, listen, here's something I fear. You both already talked about it, but I'm actually going to bet money on it because I really feel like it's going to happen.
You've bet a lot of money lately, I noticed. You make a lot of bets.
I am betting a lot of money that the Eagles get him with that 10th pick. I know it sounds crazy, but I think
I don't think it's crazy.
Floats are in a win now situation. I mean,
I don't think it's crazy. I don't think it's crazy. If I was doing a mock draft today and if I had to bet, I would not pick it. But I don't think it's crazy because if you're the Eagles, you have a Super Bowl built roster, and you think about what they already have. They're kind of built like the Cowboys were when they took Zeke, and that made sense. They had the developed offensive line. And you think about the dynamic that he could be with a guy like Jalen Hurts with his running ability in the backfield with their offensive line. That scares the hell out of me as a Giants fan with their weapons on the side. So I certainly could see the Eagles potentially doing it. I could also see the Ravens doing it for a lot of the same reasons I just said. Lamar Jackson, you think about the dynamic of having an elite running back like that, pairing him with Lamar Jackson, it's intriguing. So those are some teams that I could definitely see taking him in the first round.
What about the Chargers? If he makes it up to, what they at 18, the
I
Chargers?
can see it. Yeah, I can see it for sure because they're kind of a pretty well-constructed team. They're kind of far along in the process. I can see the Cowboys as well, by the way.
Yeah. I don't know where he's going to fall. I hear 10, I hear 18, I hear 20. I don't know where he's going to fall.
I'm going to tell you who I think the Cowboys are going to take. And I have not been looking at a lot of mocks because, to be honest with you, I'm kind of mocked out. He just feels like a Cowboy to me. I think they're going to end up taking Michael Mayer, the tight end out of Notre Dame. He feels so much. He feels like a Jason Witten clone to me. Like just in terms of style of play and the way he's built. Yeah. That has Cowboy written all over for me if he drops.
They need a tight end, so that makes sense.
I think what's infuriating about the Cowboys, and look, I mean, a lot of people criticize Jerry Jones, the owner. There's nothing wrong with that organization when it comes to drafting. I mean, they walk away with dimes almost every time, it seems like.
You're speaking my language, man. I've been on YouTube for 5 years, and it's one of my most painful things to say. Over the last decade, there might be 2 or 3 teams that have drafted better than the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah,
hate saying it, but it's the truth. They've drafted incredibly well.
Yeah, where they make a mistake is, they're holding on to guys for too long. They're holding on to coaches for too long. Jason Garrett was a coach for a decade of that team. And so fortunately they make mistakes in that area, but
some contracts were ill-advised as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's always about, in this day and age, it sucks when you're losing a player on the rookie contract that is a home guy that you love. But, you see the mistakes the Cowboys made there with Ezekiel Elliott. It's like, man, there's a lot of damage that Jerry Jones does by trying to keep all the guys in-house. So
I can definitely see the Cowboys want him. I think they're going to have to trade up for him. I don't know if he'll be there at 26.
Yeah, maybe he won't. But if he does get there, because there are some other good tight ends in this draft. Kincaid's really good. There's a couple of other guys, So if he does drop, like, to me, he just feels like a Cowboy to me. When I watch him play, I'm like, I'm watching Jason Witten. He feels like a Witten to me. So we'll see what happens on draft night, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. How about Jahmyr Gibbs out of Alabama? What are your thoughts on him?
Dude, he was probably the best wide receiver on Alabama this year. Like, that's how good this dude is. I mean, his pass catching ability out of the backfield. He's a dynamic runner. He's good. He's real. We're not drafting him because he's going to go probably late first, early second round, mid second round. I don't think the Giants are drafting running back at the earliest, the third. So I don't think we're drafting him, but he's good. Really good. He kind of reminds me a bit of Travis Etienne in terms of that dual capability as a running back. So I think he's really good out of Alabama.
Interesting.
When I watch Alabama games and they're playing good teams, he looks fast on that field, and that's impressive because you don't know how fast these players are in the SEC. I mean, he just looks fast when he runs. So this kid has speed. He's not afraid to initiate contact either. So, like Chris says, he won't. I think he's going to go late first, early second. So it doesn't matter. Just hope that the Cowboys don't get him.
I think he's going to be the second running back taken, to be honest with you.
Oh, no doubt about it.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah.
Question is, I'd love to see what the spreads are in Vegas on whether or not there's going to be 2 running backs taken in the first round. Because if they're leaning towards it, then you know that he's probably going to go around the time the Giants are picked. But obviously, the Giants, even if he's there, they're not going to get him.
I could see it. I could see 2 running backs going in the first round.
Yeah,
for sure. All right, Devin A-Chain. Again, talk about names. I was thinking of A-Train, like when I said the name, and it is pronounced Devin A-Chain. What were your thoughts on him out of Texas A&M?
He's you talked about Sproles earlier. He's fast as hell. He ran a 4.3 240, but the dude's only 5'8", 188. Maybe a guy that could be a big-time, like, special teams contributor, kick return specialist, a guy that could kind of be that Darren Sproles, Boston Scott type back for you.
Gadgets, yeah.
Yeah, so that's his role for me. That's what I envision him being in the NFL. But certainly a guy that has big play capability. And if you could get him in that round 4, round 5 range, sure. He's another weapon that you could add to an offense where they're looking to get creative. So clearly not going to be a 3-down back, but definitely a guy that could bring a different dynamic to a backfield.
Yeah, I same thing. I see him like a gadget kind of player. special teams thing, and day 3 pick, same thing. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's exactly what I had too. Special teamer, quick guy. I mean, he does have impressive speed, but it's not really that NFL speed, kind of like what you were talking about earlier, Truth. He doesn't really have that game speed as much as he does just straightforward speed. But look, we got one more guy, ECU, Keaton Mitchell. I actually think he was kind of similar to A-Chain, to be honest with you. He's really shifty. He's really fast. I don't personally think he has the means to make it to the next level. He does have a lot of fun tape to watch at college football, and I'm sure for ECU fans, I doubt there's any in the chat right now, but he's special to watch. There's no doubt about it. But again, it's too much reliance on that wide field that I don't think is going to translate into the NFL when he gets there. But again, good special teams opportunity here.
So yeah, I view him similar to A-Chain. He's same build, 4.37. What I read on him that a lot of people thought was what they worry about with him even more so than A-Chain at the NFL level, the way that he runs, they think will lend itself to injuries at the NFL level because he runs so hard between the tackles. And for a guy that's built the way that he is, it's going to be hard for him to be able to stay on the football field. But yeah, I view him the same way. Like a round 5, round 6 could be a really good special teams contributor, a gadget player. But again, not a guy that's going to give you, value in terms of being a 3-down or probably even 2-down running back.
Yeah.
Truth, what are your thoughts, man?
Same thing. I don't have him graded as high as a lot of the guys we spoke about today. Again, I see him more of a later day 3 pick. And I would rather have a few other players that we spoke about than him if we were picking a running back. That's about what I have him. He doesn't really impress me so much like the other guys did.
Yeah. Well, if the Giants get a player like this, I'm kind of going to walk away similar to how I felt when we got a guy like Cam Brown, where it's like, okay, all right, we got a special teamer, but the odds of him amounting to anything special in the NFL are relatively low.
Kind of like Brightwell. When we drafted Brightwell, you were like,
yeah, and we were right.
He'll help on special teams. That's about it. Yeah.
We were spot on.
And by the way, that our running back group is wide open. Really, for those guys, it's for whoever if we do add someone here, whether it's in the draft or UDFA or through the waiver, it's wide open.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously Barkley and Breida will make the team, but after that, there's no guarantee Brightwell is going to make this team. And you draft the running back, Brightwell could be looking for a job before the start of the season for sure.
Craig is in the chat tonight, and he's complaining that we're not talking about linebackers, but I don't know how to tell Craig we planned on running backs. We'll get the hell out of the chat, damn it.
He loves those. He likes tight ends and linebackers, I guess.
He does, yes.
I can't blame him. He's a Giants fan. We haven't had a first-round linebacker since Carl Banks, so I get it.
Which is sad. Which is pretty sad.
You want to talk about linebackers? We got a damn good one. Bobby Okereke. He's going to be damn good. I'm excited about him.
So let me ask you this then. I mean, we're going into the draft now, and let's just completely shift gears because, while we had Chris, and again, thank you so much for coming on. We'll just talk about the draft in general right now. I still think middle linebacker, the other middle linebacker spot is a need. I don't think Mike McFadden's going to step up and be a guy. I mean, Craig was bringing it up, and I couldn't agree more with him. He never showed any signs of explosiveness, so I don't have much confidence in that kid.
Yeah, that's a need. The thing is, we have needs everywhere. D tackle's a need. As much as some people don't want to admit that, because Leonard Williams probably ain't going to be here after this year. Edge is a need. We don't know how long Azeez Ojulari is going to be with this team, and even if he is, you can never have enough edge rushers. And after those two, we don't got one. Cornerback's an obvious need. Safety's an obvious need. Every interior offensive line spot's an obvious need. Wide receiver's an obvious need. The position we just talked about in terms of depth is a need. So there is literally need on every spot on this roster.
Yeah.
Outside of quarterback.
So what would you say? Let me actually pull up. I got DraftKings open. I have DraftKings, and what it's showing right here is the odds of what the Giants do with their first pick. The most likely situation DraftKings is saying, and there's a loss on returns here, is wide receiver. They're thinking that we go wide receiver with the first pick. Do you agree with that? Do you think the Giants are going receiver?
For value, I love defensive linemen at 7-1 because the more I'm not saying we're going to take it, but if I'm betting for value there, I do think it's more likely than a lot of people think we could take a defensive lineman because I just think that's where the value may be where we're picking. There's a lot of good interior defensive linemen in this draft. I could see us taking an edge. I'm still definitely leaning. We're probably going wide receiver or corner, but I do like the value for defensive lineman. I actually think that's third most likely. I'd have that above the offensive lineman, even though I love linemen. I don't think they're taking a center at 25. I do think there are some defensive linemen we could end up taking. But I think I would actually slightly favor the corner, if I'm being honest, over the wide receiver. I think it's a rich corner draft class. I think there's 4 clear – well, I don't even know if they're clear, but pretty much a consensus. There are 4 wide receivers that are worthy going in the first round, but there's a lot of hungry teams that need wide receivers in front of us. I don't think Quentin Johnston fits our scheme. I like him as a player. I don't think he fits our scheme. And I look at the other wide receivers. Zay Flowers has some question marks in a lot of draft classes. Probably wouldn't be a first-round pick. I do like him, though, and I do think he fit our offense very well. JSN, I think, will be long gone. And then you're looking at Addison. And if Addison falls, from what I've heard, from what Patricia Train has told me, he's number 1 on their board. So I could definitely see us taking Jordan Addison if he were to fall to 25. But I would actually favor the cornerback. And I'm going to take it a step further. I would not be surprised at all. I'm almost expecting us to trade up in the first round because I look at the teams in front of us, 20 and 24, and they all need corners and they all need wide receivers. And if there is a corner on the board that the New York Giants like a Deonte Banks, like a Porter Jr., and they trickle down to that 18, 19 range, I don't think Joe Shane's going to be shy in pulling the trigger to jump 4 or 5 spots if it means giving up a future third-round pick. So I would not be surprised at all if the Giants trade up, and I would actually favor the corner with our first-round pick.
Interesting. Truth, do you think, I mean, because we were talking about the idea of trading back earlier tonight, and interestingly enough, the last time the Giants had this exact pick was 2006, and they actually did trade back in that draft. They traded back with the Steelers to get their 32nd pick. We're always thinking that mindset of trade back, but what if we did trade up? What if we did go up 5 spots, go to 20, or up 6 spots and go to 19? What would that mean? And what do you think we would give up? Because I guess that's the most important question. I'd hate to give up.
Probably a third.
I think it's a third. I did the math. I looked at the point chart. It would probably be a third or a fourth and a future third. That's probably what you're looking at. So
yeah.
And it makes perfect sense if their guy is still there, getting close within 5-6 picks. I think you have to think about doing that. Shane wouldn't be doing his job. I love Banks. I love that kid, Deonte Banks. But unless it's a trade up, I don't think he'll be there for the Giants at 25 now.
It all depends on their draft board, right? But if they view a guy like Porter Jr. or Banks as a top 12 or 13 talent in this draft, and they trickle down to 19, and it's an obvious need for this team, and they know they're not getting there to 25, I could see it. And same thing with Addison if they want to go wide receiver. The same thing with – I don't think they would trade up for Flowers. But there's like 3 or 4 players based off the teams picking in front of us. Look what those teams need. They all need a wide receiver. They all need a cornerback. So I don't think those guys are going to get to us. And if that's what they want, I think they're going to have to go up and snatch it.
Well, we talked about that too. I mean, the most talented bunch here is the secondary cornerbacks and safeties. I mean, if they did best player available, we're expecting them to go cornerback in that situation. Both Truth and I are. I mean, when we had that episode about a month ago, we were saying it's almost no brainer. We were amazed looking at it like there's so many talented cornerbacks in this draft. I'd be thrilled depending on who we get.
They could stand pat. Maybe Forbes, right? The thing I worry about with Forbes is his size. He's 165 pounds, but he's got everything else. He's got the long arms, 32-inch arms. He's over 6 feet tall, and he's a playmaker. He's a ball hawk. He had 6 interceptions last year, which matched our total for the year as a team. I'm looking at this too, by the way. Another name I want to throw out there. Again, value. I don't think it's going to happen, but at 25-1. I'll throw $20 on the safety. I think Branch is a possibility for the Giants. I think he fits our defense very well. And if he were to trickle down to 25, I think he's at least in the discussion for the Giants. I think he'd fit the wing scheme very well.
And you know what, Chris, in Twitter, you asked that question, which player you think could fall? And I told you I'll let you know in the podcast. I think he can fall to the Giants.
I can see it.
Yep, I do. I can see it happening.
Well, let me get out of full screen here. And I guess now we can talk about the entirety of the draft. I was a little surprised that they had offensive linemen at that high of a payout compared to wide receiver, because I could have seen that one almost as much if they went for a center that could be a day one starter.
I think you can get one in the second round or third round for that.
I wouldn't be upset about it. I wouldn't be upset. If they take John Michael Schmitz, I'll be happy. I love linemen. But everything that I have read and the vibes I've gotten from Joe Schoen this entire offseason, every time he's asked about the offensive line, he goes, we're good. We're fine. He talks about how they need defensive line help. He talks about how they need wide receiver help. He talks about how they need corner help. But when people bring up the center spot in the offensive line, he almost says, we believe in Bredesen. We believe in our guys. So I think they're going to draft a lineman, but I don't think they're going to take one early. I can see them waiting until round 3 for the center, which I'm not in love with that idea. I'd like to snag one in round 2, but I think they might push it off in this draft later than some people may think.
Yeah. I had them taking Luke in my mock. I had Luke Weepler going second round. I don't think he'll make third round. I really don't. I think that kid is a talented. I believe he graded highest among all the centers in blocking and pass protection. So I don't know. I like that kid out of Ohio State.
No, Whippler, yeah, he's good.
Michigan has a good center too. I hate to say it, but I like Olsegun. Olsegun's he's a very talented, very smart player. I mean, he's likely going to be there in the third round.
Are you talking about Oluwatimi or whatever his name is? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Michigan, right? Michigan center?
Yep. Michigan center.
He won the award for the best center in the country or whatever it was. But
best lineman, didn't he?
Yeah, best lineman, yeah.
Otland Award, yeah.
Yeah, he's good.
I mean, you got Tippmann. He's a quality guy. I even like the kid out of Notre Dame and out of Arkansas, Stromberg and Patterson.
Stromberg's athletic profile was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. He had a really impressive combine. I did not. Yeah, he kind of jumped off when I looked at his numbers. I'm like, wow, he doesn't look like he'd be that fast.
Yeah, I mean, it is surprisingly a deeper position center than I initially thought. So you're right, Chris. I think they can go a lot of different ways in the draft for a center. It doesn't have to be first or second round.
I hate to say it, but the position that might deplete the quickest is wide receiver. I mean, it's almost going to be depleted by the time it gets to us at pick 25.
I do like wide receivers in this draft, though, in day 2. I think it's a draft where there's a lot of guys that I think could be number 2 receivers on a football team, but there's almost none that could be like a true number 1. But I think it's obviously the guys that are at the top, the JSNs, are guys that are projected to be the best of this class. But I don't think there's any Jalen Waddles in this class. I don't think there's any Jamar Chases in this class. I think there's guys that could be maybe the 10th best, the 15th best receiver in the NFL. But I don't think there's any slam dunk superstars. But I do think there's a lot of depth at that position in day 2 and even into day 3. I think there's a lot of guys that could be good wide receivers for your football team.
Yep. Totally agree with that.
How many, and I'll be realistic. Obviously, if we have 7 picks and we walked away with 7 starters, that'd be perfect.
Oh, no, we got 10 picks.
We got 10 picks, right?
Yeah, 7 on day 3 we have.
Yeah.
Yeah. And look, I personally am hoping that we walk away with 3 consistent, reliable starters at the very least. You think is that a fair expectation? Is that kind of what your mindset's thinking as well?
Oh, if you get 3 legitimate starters in any draft, that's a great draft. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know fans expect every guy to be a starter, but that's just not the way it works. You need to find guys that provide valuable depth, guys that could be good special teamers. But if you get 3 really good starters, that's a great draft, right? I mean, you think back to the 2020 draft, I mean, we ended up with Daniel Jones, Dexter Lawrence, Darius Slayton, and Julian Love. We got 4 good starters out of that draft. That was a really good draft. And had Dave Gettleman taken a guy like A.J. Brown instead of DeAndre Baker, that might have been one of the greatest drafts in New York Giants history. That's how good that draft is looking now. So if you could get a draft where you get 3 really good starters out of it, that's always a great draft. Yeah, if you could get 3 big contributors for a football, especially if you're not picking at the top of it.
Yeah, and also let's not dismiss role players and depth. If you could get quality guys who could come in, contribute on special teams and be a depth piece if someone gets injured and could give you valuable snaps. That's okay too by me. This is football. That's why they have 53-man rosters.
Yep.
Because everybody matters. Football's a violent sport. People get hurt. So I'll be happy if they get some quality guys, especially that
we should know that better than anybody as Giants fans. It's a violent sport and people get hurt. But thank God we got new turf this year.
Yeah, thank God. I mean, that is the one thing that's so frustrating when you see the list of the most injured teams, and the Giants are number 1, and the Jets are number 2. Because I guess what I also found out, which explains a lot, is that the Timex Center was using the same turf. So that explained a lot. Mm-hmm. So hopefully they rip that up and replace that too. I mean, I don't want
they are ripping that up. Yeah.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, I don't know much about the turf. Is it supposed to be better and players?
I actually did a video on it just because it interested me, so I know a little bit about it. I did some research. So basically, the old turf. The reason that the Giants and not just the Giants, I think 6 stadiums in total had it. 7 teams played on it because obviously the Giants and Jets share the same stadium. That turf was more durable. So that's why they prefer that turf, because it's cost effective. You don't have to replace it as often as the Giants are now going to have to replace this type of turf. But the difference in the turfs was, if you look at that turf, it's almost like a netting. Like it's like intertwined fake pieces of grass. So the players' cleats would get caught in the netting when they were running. This new turf is like singular blades. So it's not as dangerous in terms of worrying about your cleat getting caught up in the turf and potentially risking a lower body injury. And there was also a study done on it that I think per stadium, and they did it turf by turf. It wasn't grass versus turf. It was versus the turf the Giants have now and the turf that we had previously. And on average, teams that have the turf we currently do have, I think it was about 2.5 less lower body injuries per year. So, I'm happy that we made that change. It needed to happen.
Agreed. It's funny. I looked up the organization that installed the turf, that managed the turf, if you will, what we originally had, and I found lawsuits all over the country with that company, at the high school level especially, with poor turf quality, with poor management, poor everything. And I say to myself, so many times with the Giants that I just don't remember with other teams, a lot of the injuries came in practice. And if they were using that same turf, well, forget it. That explains a lot. But like, how many times we're sitting there in August, it's a Wednesday, you check your phone and, so-and-so got injured. That's always the most infuriating one. It's like, what the hell are you guys doing?
And look how Shepard got hurt. He was just running down. He wasn't even running full speed. No. And he just, his ACL gave out on him. It was horrible.
Yeah. So mission accomplished there. I mean, I'm very proud of the Giants organization and the Jets for making that change. Just agreeing to make the change.
Had to happen. Yeah.
But it did.
Lions also made the same change. The Lions had the same turf. They got rid of theirs too.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just do this. The Giants have 3 picks in round 7 if they don't package and make a trade. Do you see anybody that could be there that could be a valuable piece, special teams, that could be a sleeper? Do you see anybody, Chris?
What, day 3 you mean?
No, day 3, 7th round. They got 3 picks in the 7th round. Have you noticed?
I'm going to be honest with you. I have not looked specifically for guys that I think could like specialize in specialty. Okay. I'm sure Shane has, but I haven't gone that in depth in terms of like guys that. I'll tell you one guy that I do like, and I actually did a little research on him, and the reason that I did is because I looked at what the Giants did last year with the offensive line, and I looked at what they did with Azudu. So like I'm thinking to myself, what type of offensive lineman do they prefer? Like what are they looking for in a lineman? And when I think about Azudu, what does he bring to the table? Well, he's versatile. He's a guy that they projected could have either played guard or tackle. He's a guy that played in an offense that had a mobile quarterback in North Carolina, something that the Giants probably figured, well, we plan to run a lot with Daniel Jones. Now that quarterback from Carolina is playing for the Washington Commanders, but they ran the quarterback for 800 yards that year. So I looked around college football and I said, okay, where can I find a guy that's versatile? Where can I find a guy that's playing in a similar scheme to what the New York Giants are trying to implement? Well, LSU this past year their quarterback ran the ball for 800 yards. Sure enough, this guy's one of the most versatile offensive linemen in this draft. He's played both tackle spots. He's played both guard spots. He's being projected as a day 3 guy. I got my eye on him. He's kind of like my sleeper that I could see the Giants drafting, and that's Anthony Bradford out of LSU. He's capable of playing every position on the offensive line, and he's played in a similar offense to what the New York Giants run in the NFL.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I like that guy. You know what guy I liked? I looked him up, and I watched a lot of tape on him. That guy's special teamer, the kid out of Georgia Tech, Charlie Thomas.
People love him. People love him. Yeah.
He played like a hybrid, like a safety and a linebacker. 216 pounds, 6'3", but he's built like a rock. There's a kid that could be a nice special team for the Giants, and maybe, who knows, maybe transition to a strong safety. Maybe he could do it. I don't know. You know,
I'll tell you who I love. Not that he's a special team guy, not that he's a day 3 guy. I think he's a round 2 or round 3 guy for the Giants if they want him. Tyler Scott. I'm a fan of Tyler Scott.
We had talks on him, the kid from Cincinnati, right? Tyler Scott.
Yeah, because when you watch his highlights and you watch his film breakdowns, he just looks special in terms of his breakaway speed.
Sure.
Like once he gets the ball in his hands, not that I'm ever going to compare him to because he's not him, but it's like Beckham-like. Remember when you used to watch Beckham and he would catch the slant and the guys would be 2 yards in front of him and suddenly he'd be 5 steps ahead of everybody else? That's what I saw consistently when I would watch the highlights with Tyler Scott. His speed's off the charts. I like him. We need players like him in this offense, guys that can create explosive plays. I love those chewed up clock, 15, 16 play drives like the Giants had so many times last year. But you need those guys that can create chunk plays, and I feel like he could be one of those guys. Giants brought him in for a visit. I would love him. If he ever fell to 89 in the 3rd round, I think he'd be a great fit for the Giants.
Didn't I see a thing on Twitter that Pat Leonard and somebody else were talking about that? And this guy was saying that the Giants really like that kid.
I saw that on Twitter. Yeah, I saw that on Twitter yesterday, actually, I think. Yeah. But they brought him in for a visit like 2 months ago. Like they've shown interest in this guy for a while. So I don't know where they'll take. I think if they really want him, they'll take him at 57. But ideally, I think he'd best be at 89. But as we saw last year, the Giants don't really care where these guys are projected to go. Most people didn't have Wan'Dale Robinson going where the Giants took him. Most people didn't have Josh Azudu where the Giants took him.
No, I don't know.
The Giants took him. They didn't care. They said, this is a guy we like that fits our scheme. So if they feel that way about a guy like Tyler Scott, I wouldn't be surprised at all if they take him in the 2nd round.
Yeah, makes sense. What do you think, Spartan?
Well, I know. I have one player that I'm looking at, and it's easier for me because I got to watch him play. And I'm trying not to be biased that if the players sucked, I would say don't bother.
Jaden Reed.
I'm always going to go back to Jaden Reed, but it's the same thing. He was held back. He had such a great junior year, and then there was so much dysfunction at the quarterback level and then at the coaching level at Michigan State. And he rarely got the ball thrown to him, but when he gets the ball thrown to him, he makes masterpiece plays, right? So in a mid-round pick at wide receiver, he's got the most boom value at that spot. Otherwise, the wide receiver position declines severely. So I had the benefit of watching him and knowing what he's capable of, and it's a lot. So I'm very excited. If the Giants can get him, I'd be very, very freaking happy.
Yeah. You know, another guy I like, I don't think he fits what we're looking to do with the wide receiver position. I just like him. I'm a fan of Mingo. That guy's tough, man.
Good, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Mingo. I just don't think we'll draft him because he doesn't project to be the type of wide receiver I think we'd want to draft, but I'm a fan of him. He's tough. He's gritty. I like him.
Yeah, I don't think he'll be there anyway if they did. I think he'll be gone.
Yeah.
So, look, we've come up to the hour. Entertainah, I got one last question for you. Truth, if you have one after that, I will let you go into it. But, you know, my question is this. What are you going to be doing draft night?
I'm going to be live streaming on YouTube like I do every year.
Awesome.
I'm excited to do it. Hang out with all the Giants fans like I always do. Hopefully I don't give a Daniel Jones reaction this year. I promise I won't. But I'm excited. I'm excited to talk about Giants for about 3 straight days, about 16 hours worth of time. And, you know, hopefully everybody's happy. I know they won't be. We're all going to be divided.
Of course not.
I see people argue over 6th-round picks on this app. Come on now. This is Giants Twitter.
It's crazy. It's crazy. It is insane. Twitter has gotten to the point where if you're a fan that says, I'm going to give the guy a chance, I'm going to give Joe Shane and Brian Dable a chance to see what they could get out of these players, you're labeled a homer by some of these fans. It's crazy because everything to that 20% of the fan base is just ultra negative. That's their stance, and they're going to be negative until things are proven positive. But that's the beauty of being a fan. And that's what makes it fun. That's why we debate all the time.
That's true. That's true. Well, listen, you know where we're going to be, right, Spartan? We're going to be there draft night. You know, we're going to
be at
cover.
the stadium?
No, I won't be there. No, I live.
Oh.
I live in South Carolina, Chris.
Yeah, and I'm in Chicago. Me and Truth can't.
Oh,
don't
okay,
work
yeah. So you won't.
frequently.
That's right. I
So
knew you were in Chicago. That's right. Yeah.
We'll
yeah.
be on air live for day 1 and day 2. You know, we'll have a lot of Twitter guys, fans on to interact with us. I love this. I love when we do this with the fans, and
Yeah.
I get so psyched for the draft and you know the anticipation and I have faith in Shane. I have faith he's going to make the right decisions and make this team better. So let's go.
I can't wait. I think he's going to knock it out of the park. I think he's going to have a great draft. For the main reason I think that more than anything is what I said earlier, his first real draft in which he's had his guys in place. And he's had a full year as the Giants general manager to really prepare for this. So I think he's going to have a big draft. I do. Shane's a smart guy. I think we're going to get some good football players.
Yep.
His team now. So excited to see what he can do.
Yeah.
Well, look, Chris, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on to our show tonight, man. It was really a blast having you.
Yes. Pleasure finally meeting you. It's been a long time.
Yeah, man. Yeah, no, definitely. Come on. We'll talk about the Mets after they win the World Series.
There we go. Awesome.
Yeah.
Chris,
But no, I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with you guys. And can't wait for the draft. Can't wait to see what the New York Giants end up with. And thank you to everybody for tuning in and all the support you guys all show, not just me, not just them, but all Giants content creators. We all appreciate it. So
absolutely.
No
doubt about it. But and yeah, to that, I mean, look, this is our last episode. So I mean, you know, my final words is, you know, thank you all the fans that have been tuning in regularly every week.
This is your last episode?
This is the last episode. I wouldn't call next week like our final episode really, because it's a completely different setup. We're having fans.
I see.
Now.
Okay.
We're breaking down any players or any talent. So final one, guys. Thank you for listening to another season. This is our second season of Draft Talk.
Everybody, thank you. Yep.
Yeah, we appreciate the guys that come out and, you know, listen to players, you know, offer up their thoughts in the comments. We love it. So thank you guys so much. It's a blessing to be part of, you know, the Giants family. So take care, guys. Go Giants, and hopefully we kick some butt in this draft.
Yep. Take care, everyone.